Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto crossed a forbidden bond with Kushina? If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. On Saturday morning, Minato decided he would get a jump on cutting the grass in the backyard. He fired up the riding mower and set forth. Typically, it would take about an hour or two to cut the entire back lawn. Minato looked up at the window of Naruto's room on the second level. He was going to run up to his son's room and ask Naruto if he would like to help him around the yard but decided to let him sleep in. Minato thought to himself that he was so proud of Naruto busting his ass in school, kicking up his grades up, and ultimately getting accepted into a great college. Minato continued riding the mower as he passed just underneath Naruto's window. Slam, 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 slam. So you like to shoot your ball juice all over my thong panties, huh? Kushina said sternly. Kushina was on top of her son Naruto, fucking him hard and fast in her son's twin-size bed. The mattress and box spring whined and shook loudly. Knowing that the sounds of riding mower outside would drown out their hot incestuous fucking, the kinky mother and son knew they could be as loud as they wanted. Also, they could listen in case Minato decided to come back inside. Kushina kept on her short pink satin robe, half-shelf white bra, and a pair of white crotchless lacy panties. The belt of the thin robe was still tied together, but the robe itself parted down the middle, allowing Naruto access to his mother's perfect body. Kushina knew that her choice of undergarments, nighties, and dirty talk triggered a lustful aggression in her son. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. You were walking around the house in them and you looked so sexy. A few minutes earlier, Kushina stormed into Naruto's room because she found a pair of her pink panties in the laundry. The tiny G-string thong was crusty and completely ruined. Naruto quickly realized that his mother finding her panties used and abused did not piss her off, but rather, it made her incredibly horny. Never be sorry, sweetie. But I wish you would have let me know. I would have loved to watch you jack your big boner off all over them. Or on me for that matter. But you have to be careful that your father doesn't find stuff like this. Kushina said matter-of-factly. Naruto did everything in his power not to come right then and there. Tell me, baby. What else turns you on? Kushina said as she leaned closer to his face. Her hips and bouncing ass not letting up. Another time, during Easter, you wore your long-sleeve lace nightie and put on pair sexy bunny ears. The gown fit so tight around her perfect curves, mom. I jacked off 3 times that night to thought of you. You shouldn't be looking at your mother like that. Did you imagine me as your little fuck bunny? Kushina said while bouncing her body a bit faster. Yes, I did. God. Mom, I love how you like to fuck hard. Naruto said, shutting his eyes tight. Naruto couldn't get over the fact that his incredible mother looked so hot and sexy, like a glamour and Playboy model. Second that, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze looked exactly like a goddess. This isn't anything, hun. You like mommy taking care of your morning boners like this. She tightened her pussy muscles and bounced hard on her growing boy. Her soaking wet cunt slammed up and down. Next, Naruto watched his 38-year-old mother stuff the disgusting soiled pair of panties into her mouth. At that point, Kushina slipped her hands behind Naruto's neck and locked her hands together for extra leverage for her hard fucking. The pleasure was making him forget his own name at the moment. He thought the headboard behind him was going to crack the wall. The hard fucking and dirty talk went on for several minutes. I couldn't help it but I jacked off into one of your large sexy bras a few days ago too. Naruto said as he reached to feel up his stacked mother's heavy tits. He parted the robe a bit more and untucked her tits from inside the bra. The black transparent sheer one. I know. It was so obvious. The stains were all over the place. It was enough to think that 3 or 4 guys jacked off in it at once. She said after taking the panties out of her mouth and playfully throwing it at her son's face. Did you wear it after? Naruto asked while slightly grunting from his mother's hard pounding. Oh yeah, I did grocery shopping later on in my fresh new cum-stained bra. Kushina answered seductively. You're so dirty, mom. I never thought you would be this wild. What else do you like? I sometimes like to be called filthy slutty names. I think it's because I have been having such boring vanilla sex for years now. It seems lately I've been needing a hard cock in me every day. Kushina confessed. You like being called a sexy bitch. Yes. Kushina hissed loudly. How about if we are out at a movie and I whisper to you that I want you bury my cock down your slutty tight throat? Mommy is your cock-sucking little tramp, she whispered as she felt her entire body beginning to heat up. Kushina's pussy juice was gushing down Naruto's cum-filled balls. Can I use your whore pussy whenever I want? Naruto continued to molest her heavy tits as they hung out of her silky robe. God yes. You're making me so wet. I wish Dad would have gone to work today. I would spend the day turning your balls inside out. Kushina confessed as she felt almost every hair follicle on her body begin to rise. Look at me, Mom. Kushina looked down at him with her soft doe eyes. Her body was on the verge of an earth-shaking orgasm. She continued to bounce hard and fast on her baby boy, slamming her slick pussy from the root to the tip of his large penis. You are about to make me pop. Jack my cock with that perfect juicy mommy hole. That did it. Out of pure animalistic lust, Kushina slapped Naruto hard across his face as she exploded. Her face went blood red and her body went into overdrive. Ah, you fucking bad boy. I'm cummingg hard. Kushina cried out and exploded. Letting out a deep moan, she let the orgasm take control of her body. She felt every nerve-ending tingle as her body continued to shake violently. The bed shook in unison with her trembling body. Minato whistled to himself as he rode the John Deere mower and drove under Naruto's window again, the loud engine drowning out Kushina's deep primal scream. Naruto hung on for dear life as his mother continued to fuck the hell out of her manly son. Naruto couldn't hold his for load much longer. His nuts tightened and his cockhead ballooned. He reached under the back of her short robe and grabbed a handful of her big meaty ass globes. Still shaking and fucking hard, Kushina glanced out the window at Minato, who was working on the lawn. She noticed him getting off the mower and begin to make his way towards the back patio. Shit, your father is coming in. Fucking blow your nuts right now, young man. Blast your thick cream inside my wet hot cunt. Kushina fucked the breath right out of his lungs as his balls exploded hard. Up mommy's twat. Up my twat. Up my twat. Kushina cried loudly and bared down roughly. She fucked her son as hard as she could as Naruto shot rope after rope of gooey cum deep inside her. Naruto was seeing stars as he buried his face inside Kushina's warm sweaty cleavage and grabbed her ass hard. The horny mommy held her son close and gave him soft kisses on top of his head. Later that morning, Naruto was cleaning up the family room. Kushina walked in with her yoga mat and a pair of Bluetooth headphones. She was dressed in tight black leggings and a yellow workout bra. It was time for Kushina's full-hour yoga session. Whether at the gym or at home, every Saturday Kushina would do yoga from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Naruto continued to straight up and work around her. He couldn't keep his eyes off his beautiful ADN sexy mother as she stretched in different poses. Naruto resisted grabbing his mother and fucking her right on the floor. For the next hour, Naruto came in and out of the family room. He made sure when his father was in the room, he would not stare at her bending and stretching. But Kushina knew full well that her son was a horny pervert and she loved him for that. As soon as Kushina was finished with her workout, Naruto took his mother by the hand and brought her to the living room. All the blood in Naruto's body was pouring into his large hard cock. Kushina knew he would be frustrated watching her for a full hour and made no attempts to stop her son's aggressive behavior. In fact, she was still convinced she needed to do this for him to help keep his addictions at bay. Naruto quickly bent his mother at the waist, over the sectional couch. He violently pulled down her tight black lycra leggings halfway down her thighs, and lined up his erect cock with her welcoming cunt. Naruto grabbed the back of the yellow thong panties and hooked it over her left ass cheek. The living room window looked out into the front lawn where Minato was fixing a sprinkler head. Naruto purposely had his mother face toward the window so that she could watch out for his father. The extremely horny son sunk into his mother pussy as deep as he could go and began banging away at her from behind. Naruto stared down at her meaty ass as it rippled every time it slammed against his groin. His mouth instantly began to water as he continued to pound away. I'll be quick. You have me so turned on. Look out the window in case Dad comes in. Kushina didn't say anything as she kept her eyes on Naruto's father through the window. She never felt more alive as she let her son do what needed to do to get off. To the 38-year-old mother, it was an incredible feeling to be needed with such lust and love. Kushina noticed Minato beginning to walk towards the front door. Your father! Kushina yelled out. Naruto quickly slipped out of his mother's juicy pussy and his hard cock snapped up, hitting his stomach. Kushina grabbed at her tight leggings and pulled them up over her plump booty. The two flopped on the couch and composed themselves right as Minato came through the door. All done with your yoga, honey? Minato said as he grabbed a few tools that were on the living room floor. Yep, Kushina said while fumbling with the remote, trying to turn the TV on. Naruto grabbed his phone and pretended to check Facebook. You both look out of the breath. Were you showing our boy some new exercises? Minato asked as he headed back toward the front door. Yeah, we just got done. It was this lower body workout, but it's great cardio. Naruto said with half a smirk looking down at his phone. Okay, well, go easy with your poor mother. She's getting fragile in her old age. Minato winked at Kushina and walked outside. Naruto smiled to himself realizing that she obviously was not putting the same effort into sex with her own husband as she does with him. A few minutes later, Naruto resumed fucking his mother doggy style while Kushina continued to look out the living room window. The incestuous mother and son were so turned on, but they knew they needed to be quick. Naruto grabbed his mother by the shoulders and stood her up straight. This made her arch her back as he went on nailing her from behind. He reached in front of her yellow sports bra and pushed the material just over her big full natural tits. Mom, are you on the pill? You're not going to get pregnant, are you? Naruto asked. Why, baby? The sight of your mother knocked up and carrying your baby wouldn't excite you. Kushina purred. Naruto let out a lustful moan and grabbed her all over her hourglass figure. I am so fertile right now, son. I remember how big my tits got when I was pregnant with you. Kushina moaned while slamming her ass back to meet Naruto's thrusts. Kushina remembered that she had not missed taking her birth control pill in years, but her son didn't know that. She loved how hard he got at the thought of fucking a baby into her. Mom, tell me to come in you. He whispered as he grabbed her soft and heavy breasts. Honey. Kushina looked over her shoulder and stared lovingly back at him. Cum baby. Empty yourself in your personal cum catcher. Do it, Naruto, she said softly. Again, Mom. Please. You're so slutty, Naruto said as he picked up the pace of his deep thrusting. Be a good boy and release that yummy sperm. Kushina whispered while feeling completely ravished by her son's hard pounding and roaming hands. She couldn't believe that he would take a chance in knocking her up. Even though the chances were slim to none, but it excited her to no end that her son was not afraid to fuck her pregnant. Oh God, Mom, louder. Naruto spanked his mother hard on her bubble butt. His face became extremely flush. Their skin smacking against each other echo in the living room. Baby, aim for my uterus and make a big gooey mess in your mother. Kushina said with more authority. Naruto squeezed his mother's hips and slammed his cock into her as hard as he could. Kushina looked back outside to monitor her husband's movements while her son used her like a ragdoll. Seconds later, she felt her son's cum fill all around his pounding cock. Her pussy was being flooded and the feeling made Kushina's eyes roll into the back of her head. She felt her body explode and they both collapsed onto the couch. The next day, Kushina dragged Naruto to the outlets on the other side of town. They acted like a typical mother and son while out in public. They went from store to store and Kushina made him buy new clothes for their upcoming summer vacation. Kushina dragged her son into an everything but water department store that specialized in women's bathing suits. Besides Naruto's birthday coming up, the idea of going away for a week excited her even more. Since she worked incredibly hard to stay in shape and healthy, Kushina wanted to buy something a bit more revealing than what she normally tends to wear. The bikinis and two pieces on display were kind of modest for what she was looking for. Naruto walked around the store bored out of his mind while playing games on his iPhone. Wanting to keep her son's attention, Kushina began to think of dirty ways she could tease him. She quickly grabbed a bathing suit off the rack and went to the dressing room. This bathing suit turned out to be 2 sizes too small. Entering the dressing room, Kushina took off her tight top and unhooked her bra. Her mouthwatering naked tits hung freely. They bounced and swayed as she reached down to pick up her cell phone. She began taking pictures of herself changing and sent them to her son, who was clearly bored. Dropping her pants, she turned around and bent over in the mirror. She took a selfie in the mirror of her full backside, knowing this would get Naruto going. Naruto began receiving the messages and his jaw dropped. One by one the images rolled in. One picture was of Naruto's beautiful adoring mother with her right arm underneath both her gorgeous heavy tits, pushing them together and upwards. The text in the message said, "Maybe we can play target practice later." In another photo, she was on the changing bench with her legs spread. She snapped a close-up of her perfect pussy lips with two of her fingers buried deep inside of her. He was becoming noticeably uncomfortable as his cock began to grow in his jeans. Naruto and Kushina flirted heavily while they shopped and spent the day together. Naruto was visibly going crazy and Kushina was creaming her panties. They made their way up to the second level of the outlet mall. Kushina purposely stepped first onto the escalator. Naruto became eye level with what he considered was the most perfect ass and hips in the world. Kushina climbed 2 steps in front of Naruto and popped her meaty butt backwards. Then, she grabbed at her thong panties in her jeans and hiked them high on her hips. Naruto's tongue hung out of his mouth as his mother gave herself a whale tail. Her son almost blew a load right there on the escalator. Naruto reached out and smacked his mother perfect backside for being such a naughty girl. About 15 minutes later, Kushina and Naruto were in the Nike store to find some new workout clothes. The loving mother looked over to her son as he flipped through some of the racks. There were times where she just couldn't believe how handsome her young man had become. Getting flush and warm, she walked over to him. "Come with me." Kushina grabbed Naruto's bulky arm and led him out of the store. "Where are we going, Mom?" Naruto asked confusingly. Kushina led her son around the corner of the elevator. Perfectly out of sight from the mall traffic, Kushina leaned in and gave her son a soft, sensual kiss. "I love you so much," Kushina said as she dropped her bags. Her body weight pushed Naruto up against the wall as she put her arms on his broad chest. They kissed deeply for several minutes as Naruto held his mother close. Kushina broke the kiss and the two stared at each other for a moment. Naruto then lifted his mother up off her feet. Kushina instinctively hooked her legs around him as her son held her up under her ass. Naruto spun around and put his mother against the wall. He then began kissing her neck. "Mom, you are so hot," Naruto said as he gushed over his stacked mom. "You are so strong. I adore the way you hold me. I never felt so, you make me feel so needed. Tell me that you need me the way I need you, baby." Kushina said as she lovingly stared into his eyes. "You are everything to me, Mom," her son quickly answered back. After they got done shopping, the two decided to pull over into a scenic park overlooking the small quiet town they lived in. Naruto found a spot at the top of the hill where they can watch the sunset. Kushina was lying on her stomach on a big soft blanket. Her tight jeans were piled next to Naruto's cargo shorts on the side of them. Kushina's blue mini G-string thong that she was wearing earlier was now ripped to shreds and laying in the grass somewhere. Naruto was breathing pretty hard as he nailed his mom in a prone bone position. Kushina's top was still on as Naruto humped away at her luscious backside. His large athletics legs were on either sides of his mother's wide hips and he had his face buried in the back of her neck. Her perfume had hypnotizing effect on Naruto. "Come on, son, show me that I shouldn't tease you the way I did today. Show me why I shouldn't do naughty things like that." Her voice trembling from the hard pounding she was receiving. "Fuck, I wanted to do this to you right in the middle of the store," he said as he continued to plow away at her from behind. He suddenly pulled out and jammed his thick cock between her ass cheeks. He started rubbing his cock head up and down her full ass cheeks. Lodging his shaft in her butt crack, he grabbed the sides of her meaty hips so that her cheeks engulfed his hard member. Naruto moved back and forth and used her perfect globes to jerk himself off. "Oh, use those ass cheeks, baby. You like your mother's thick butt." "Yes, Mom, your ass is so amazing. I could stare at it all day," he said as he bent down and playfully bit and kissed the beautiful flesh of her ass, upper hamstrings, and lower back. Still slick with Kushina's pussy juice, he rubbed his steel cock deep in her ass cleavage for a few more minutes. Then he flipped her around onto her back. Kushina shut her legs closed and brought her knees to her chest. Her flexibility was astounding to Naruto. He rammed his insanely hard cock back into his mother's tight twat. "Oh babby, did your mommy make you all hard and horny while shopping today?" Kushina said teasingly, loving the fact that she made her son incredibly hard. "Did you get turned on seeing mommy bend over? Could you see my pretty new thong poking out? You know, the ones you just tore off of me." Naruto's mother knew exactly the type of naughty things he thought about when it came to her body and the skimpy clothes she wore. Naruto fucked his mother faster and faster, trying desperately to pound Kushina into the ground. I can't believe you wanted to commit incest with your own mother in that dressing room. I supposed you want to watch me walk around the house in slutty clothes. Maybe a pair of tight fishnet body stockings. Then I guess you would throw me down and screw me right on the floor of the family room. You adorable pervert. How dare you want to fuck your mother in her revealing lingerie? She said loudly, staring up at her handsome baby boy, her filthy mouth turning her on just as much as her son. Oh fuck mom. Naruto was nearly speechless as he focused on pounding her sweet juicy cunt. Kushina wrapped her strong arms around Naruto and aggressively rolled him over. Now on his back, Naruto's curvy mother began riding him. She grinded slow at first as shivers ran up and down her spine. Kushina seductively took her shirt off but kept on her sheer half-shelf bra. The underlining provided the perfect amount of lift and kept her tits from bouncing out of control. However, the tops of her round breasts ballooned upwards and were spilling out of the top of the bra. Kushina laid down on her son's manly chest so that were just about nose to nose. Her eyes burned lovingly into his. Her hips and ass started to pump away at his rock-hard shaft at an unbelievable pace. You're my darling baby boy. You're going up so fast. It seems like yesterday you were my little boy. Now you are mommy's perfect man, she said, caressing his lips with the tips of her fingers. I can't believe how tight you are. You like your son's cock deep inside you, mom. Naruto said boldly. God, I can't believe how horny I get with the thought of having incest with my son. I can't get enough of your hard dick. So fucking big. Kushina screamed as another orgasm exploded within her. Don't stop mom. You feel so good. I am beginning to think my constant need for sex is hereditary. Naruto. Are you saying your mother is a nympho? She yelled playfully as she continued slamming her hips on him. Mom, I can help you just like you've helped me. You can have me anytime you want. We'll see about that baby. I can be awfully needy. However, if we are not careful, this relationship can get wildly out of control. One of us needs to think with their brain here, she said as her eyes rolled back in her head from the pleasure. The two carried on hot and heavy on the large comfortable blanket. Naruto grabbed his mother's bouncing tits still in her bra. He pulled both her tits out a bit further so that her nipples were exposed. He sucked and slobbered all over her breast and soft cleavage. Kushina's ass cheeks continued to ripple as it beat down on her son's lap. Did you like when I sucked off your big nasty boner this morning? She asked as she fucked him slightly harder. Her words caused her son's cock to expand even more. She felt her baby's throbbing hard on get bigger and it put quickly on the verge popping off once again. Watching you gurgle my cum just before you swallow it was the hottest thing I have ever seen. Naruto confessed as he continued sucking away at her large motherly tits. Jesus. I am cumming again. Coming so fucking hard honey. She practically yelled in his face. Between her hard fucking and remembering how she ingested her own son's slimy semen triggered another explosion inside her. The mother's orgasm began to subside but her strong motherly hips never quit. Looking back into her son's eyes, she noticed he was starting to glaze over and his jawline began to tense up tight. Kushina now knew the signs and how her darling's face got when he was about to cum his brains out. That is when Kushina decided to finish him off strong. She pinned him down by his arms above his head and used them the leverage to help increase her pounding. Naruto was helpless as he felt his tip of his hard cock beat against his mother's cervix. So you liked releasing those big heavy cum-filled balls for mommy, huh? Do you want me to wake you up every morning and blow you before you start your day? I will baby. Mommy was thinking. Those bathing suites in the store today were pretty boring. I was thinking of ordering some string mini tiny bikinis online for our family trip. Would you help me pick some out? Would you like to see me in a micro mesh sling? Perhaps one of those nasty string thongs that would only cover my pussy. Getting even more turned on at the idea of being complete slut for her son, Kushina continued. Would you fuck your whore right there on the beach? We can tell your naive father to go get us lunch while you take mommy hard. But you can't rip my bikini off like you did those panties. How would we explain to your father that I'm butt naked on the beach because our son needed to blow his fat tasty wad up his mother's cunt? Naruto tried to reach his arms up to grab at Kushina's body, but she threw them back up above him. Naruto was ready to shoot off really hard. "Honey, look at my face. I want you to look into my eyes while you comb your brains out." Kushina slowed her pumping ass down a bit as Naruto exhaled hard, feeling the need to come. Kushina masterfully knew how to play both dominant and submissive roles. Naruto looked into his mother's big beautiful purple eyes, hanging on every single one of her nasty words. She had a ton of dirty incestuous scenarios in her filthy mind that she could play out to help edge her darling son. However, she decided to go in for the kill, in the tone that he was so used to hearing almost every day growing up. The same voice that used to say, "Naruto, the school bus is here," and, "Sweetie, dinner is ready." In that exact motherly tone, she looked him deep in his eyes and asked him, "Baby, would you jerk off on my slutty face?" Naruto groaned loud, overpowered Kushina's grip, and grabbed hard onto his mother's bouncing body. He fucked up into her furiously and released every bit of semen into womb. He placed one hand around the lower part of her sexy back and another into her hair. He yanked her head back by her wavy red hair and buried his mouth into her sweaty cleavage. Naruto let out a huge, satisfying scream into her jiggling chest as Kushina began to have a head-crushing orgasm as well. "Give it to mommy. I want it. I want it. I want it now," Kushina begged as Naruto shot a monster load into her welcoming pussy. Her twat got soaked with his semen as they both came hard together. The mother and son laid on the hillside together, recovering from their latest orgasm. "Get up, slugger. We better get home. Your dad might begin to worry." A few hours later, Naruto and his mother finally pulled up to the house and into the driveway. Naruto parked the SUV on the side so he would not block his father from getting out in the morning. Minato just got home from work a few minutes earlier and was already ready for bed. He heard Kushina's car pull up into the driveway, but after a few minutes, they still did not come in. Minato didn't think anything of it and went off to bed. "I can't believe you're ready to blow again, sweetie," Kushina said as her right hand was a blur over his hard erection. She jacked his cock hard and extremely fast. She spat on the big bulbous cock head for more lube and continued. Kushina thought that she just couldn't let him go to bed with any cum left in his young teenage balls. "Your teasing made me nuts today. I don't think I am going to go soft for days." Naruto smiled back at her and then back down to her strong hand whacking him off. His thick hard cock was sticking out of the fly of his cargo shorts as his mother's greasy hand jerked hard. "Did you mean all those nasty things you said early while we were having sex? Or is that just dirty stuff you say while you fuck?" he said, panting hard, needing one more release for the day. "Son, I think we have just scratched the surface. You said it yourself, mommy is just as big of a pervert as you. Were you always like this?" "Not exactly. I was always a sexual person, but you woke something up inside, honey. But remember, we still have to be very careful. Not everyone would understand what we have together. Mom, I don't want to just be fuck buddies. I love you too much to consider you just as that." Kushina's heart melted as she expertly began to twist up and down the head of his big dick. "That's sweet, Pookie. We can be both, I guess. But if you keep on saying loving things like that, you might just end up making your old mom fall in love with you," she confessed as she leaned in and gave him a deep wet kiss. Kushina completely forgot her own advice on being careful and continued jacking him off while in the driveway. Any one of the neighbors could come out and notice them, including her husband of 20 years. They didn't think about any of that and just kissed each other passionately in the front seat of her car. The middle-aged mom released her grip on her son and pulled away from him. She casually pulled a hair scrunchie out of the glove carpet and started tying her thick full hair into a ponytail. Naruto's heart raced as he sat there extremely hard. His sexy beautiful mother then sat up on her knees in the passenger seat. While arching her back, she sat up tall with great posture. There was a slight pause as they looked at each other with animalistic lust. By one look, she non-verbally told him everything he should do to blow his load. Naruto then reached over and grabbed his mother by her ponytail rather roughly. He guided his mother's head down onto his lap. She engulfed his steel rod into her mouth and began sucking on it as hard as she could. Naruto's used both hands on her head to pump his cock faster and faster. A few minutes passed. Spit was flying everywhere as Kushina's deep-throated her son over and over again. Leaning over the center console, she kept her back arched and stuck her ass way up in the air. Naruto looked over to her round bubble butt in her jeans. He could not get enough of her body. He reached over with his right hand while his left hand guided her warm sucking mouth up and down on his cock. Slap, spank, slap, grab, squeeze. Slap, slap. Naruto was going out of control playing with his mother's ass over her tight jeans. Her head continued bobbing extremely fast, sending a copious amount of saliva all over the front of his cargo shorts. He pulled and yanked her extremely tight jeans so that the top of her ass crack was showing. Minato was now fast asleep, completely oblivious to that fact that his wife was downstairs trying desperately to get their son to blow one more fat sticky load before heading in for the night. Moments later, the naughty mother and son were now in the garage. They hid perfectly behind Minato's large Ford pickup truck, just in case Naruto's father decided to show up unexpectedly. Kushina was on her knees slobbering and blowing him hard, trying to suck out every drop of filthy jizz from the bottom of his heavy nuts. She grabbed the back of his ass to pull him in hard as she sucked. Gak 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 gak. Kushina's throat made loud wet sounds as she expertly got him off. Shit mom. Fuck that feel good. I am going cum. Kushina jumped to her feet quickly, spun around, put her hands on her thighs, and stuck out her large mommy ass toward her son. Naruto got the hint and began to jack off while drooling of the thought about coming all over her ass in her tight jeans. She waited eagerly with her knees together and her perfect wide butt arched towards him. Naruto didn't make her wait long. Fuuuuccccckkkkkkkkk. Naruto bellowed as he sent heavy ropes of cum all over her denim-covered ass. Shoot that gunky cum on me you nasty boy, she said in a sexy whisper. Thick ribbons of jizz were all over her ass and began to soak in. Naruto leaned back onto the pickup truck amazed once again at his mother's ability to blow his mind. Kushina looked at her ass over her shoulder and admired the mess her son made. She walked over to start unloading the car full of shopping bags. Naruto noticed that his mother made no attempt to clean up the large globs of cum that covered her entire denim backside. He followed his beautiful mother around, helping her get everything in. They piled everything on the dining room table. Kushina knew that Naruto loved coming on her as much as inside of her. She felt him staring at her cum-covered jeans and it was obvious that this was turning her on. Kushina decided to walk upstairs leaving Naruto in the living room with a growing erection. I'll be back baby, she said as she went upstairs. After about 30 minutes, Kushina came back down after showering and getting ready for bed. She entered the living wearing a black satin nightie. The bottom of the nightie came just below her pussy. Her hair slightly wet fell around her shoulders. Her natural beauty caused Naruto's cock to twitch. Removing all makeup, jewelry, and nail polish from her sexy hands and feet, Kushina looked as pure as can be. She walked over slowly and seductively towards her son, grabbing his hand and leading him to stand up. Kushina leaned in and kissed her son passionately. Stick out your tongue honey, Kushina said while placing her hands softly on Naruto's shoulders. Naruto slid his tongue past his lips and his mother immediately placed her lips on it. She quickly began sucking her son's thick tongue hard. After about 60 seconds of incestuous kissing, Kushina grabbed her son's wrist again and began briskly walking toward the stairs. The bottom of Kushina's lovely round butt cheeks poked out of extremely short nightie. Naruto couldn't take his eyes off of her mature hips swaying as she slowly walked up the stairs. Kushina and Naruto walked past the bathroom that sat between the master bedroom and Naruto's room. They both heard a sudden snore come from the master bedroom. Ignoring Minato's disgusting snoring, Kushina playfully turned around and jumped on Naruto. Naruto caught her in midair and carried her inside. Over the course of the following week, Naruto and Kushina found themselves needing more and more of each other. The mother and son never felt so close together. The day before Naruto's big birthday party, a few family members were set to come to town and be a part of the festivities. Kushina wrapped up teaching her last spin class for the day. She was creaming her lycra workout pants thinking about what she was planning on getting her son for his big birthday. As she made her way to the women's locker room at the gym, many guys could not help but stare at her as if she was a work of art. Her workout attire hugged every curve perfectly. Kushina secretly loved the stares and gestures but she never showed it. Especially not to any of creeps at the gym. The only man she would allow to touch her was her son. Kushina got home a little while later. She showered and began putting on makeup at her large vanity that sat off in their large bathroom. Well, I got to run to the airport to get your mom and dad. Minato said to Kushina. I am going to ask Naruto if he wants to come and drive. He told me he needs to run back to school and pick up his baseball gear. She lied convincingly. Oh, are you sure? Well, we can swing by the school on the way back. No, I'll take him. Oh, okay. He'll be back in about an hour. Perfect. I love you, Minato said as he grabbed his keys and left. Love you too, she said as she walked into the living room. About 25 minutes later, Naruto got home from baseball practice and went to his room. Mom, Dad, are you home? Naruto yelled as he dropped his equipment down and began taking his clothes off. In here, sweetie, his mom yelled from her bedroom. Naruto made his way upstairs to his parents' master bedroom. He turned the corner, walked into the room, and saw his former model mother stand next to the big soft bed. Hey, we have about 2 hours until your father comes home. He ran out to pick up Grandma and Pop, she said as she was putting on a pair of high heels. The shoes made her long milky legs look even more tastier and sexier. Naruto's eyes traveled up from his mouth-watering legs to the rest of her goddess body. Kushina stood up and let her polka-dot blue dress flow into place. She was dressed in one of those pin-up 50s-style rockabilly dresses. Her red ruby wavy hair was pulled back in a cute pink headband and she wore a pair of 6-inch heels to match. She turned around towards the mirror and straightened out her dress. Do you want to help me clean up until your father gets back? Kushina said while she turned to check out the backside of her dress. Sure, but I am not sure how much we can get done with you dressed like that. Putting on an expensive pair of stud earrings. What do you mean? Kushina loved to play innocent to get her son going. You like one of those hot Stepford wives, or a Stepford mommy? Naruto said jokingly, thinking of that movie he watched a few nights ago. Kushina walked out of the room leaving him with a growing rod. Her high heels clicked and clacked on the hardwood floor. Naruto followed closely behind her, watching his mother's ghetto booty sway obscenely left and right. They made their way downstairs when Kushina grabbed Naruto by the arm and sat him down on the couch. The L sectional faced the wall-to-wall entertainment unit that his father built from scratch. Kushina put her hands on her hips and stood tall in front of her son. He was eye level with her sultry hips which flared out and caused her dress to puff out. What are you doing? No son of mine is going to wear pants while he watches me clean. Take them off right now, she said with authority. Naruto leaned back and slid off his shorts. His extremely thick cock shot straight up. Kushina picked up feather duster and began cleaning off the lampshade, coffee table, etc. This went on for about 10 minutes. Kushina's all-star son, and now straight a student, was going nuts watching her prance around the living room. She continued bending over, getting on her hand and knees, and purposely allowing her dress to ride up so Naruto can get an eyeful. Oh hun, you are clearly all hot and bothered. Feel free to masturbate while we wait for the family to get here. Kushina said, noticing that his boner was leaking pre-cum without him even touching it. Naruto's right hand gripped his cock and his left hand played with his large nutsack. She was driving him wild. Another 10 minutes went by and Naruto followed his mother from room to room. He didn't contribute to helping her clean but instead, he kept jerking off. His eyes locked on every curve in her luscious body. She got on her hands and knees and she reached to clean underneath the dining room table. Shit, I almost forgot. She jumped up, grabbed Naruto's hand, and brought him to the computer room. Her tits bounced up and down as she swiftly walked towards the computer room. She sat him down in the chair in front of the computer and proceeded to sit her ass down on his lap. I wanted you to help pick up some really slutty bikinis on Malibu strings, she said as she slowly grinded her ass into his crotch. Naruto was in heaven. They sat so that they both could look at the computer screen. She popped up a few sling bikinis that left nothing to the imagination. Imagine my big tits in this baby. I think it would only cover my nipples. She didn't increase her soft bouncing for the next few minutes. She kept the same extremely slow bump and grind. Naruto was breathing hard and his cock was leaking pre-cum all over the back of her dress. Without diverting her attention from the computer screen, she flipped up her dress and sat her panty-covered ass down on his lap. Kushina let her dress flow down as she opened a few more pictures. "How about this one? I'm not sure if your father would approve," she said, pretending to ignore her son. With her son's cock pinned back, Kushina rubbed her ass a little bit faster from his balls to the tip of his penis. "Honey bunny, you're not helping me. You need to focus. Do you need to go release yourself in the bathroom?" "No mom, I'm good right here," Naruto said while looking down at his mom's ass grinding against his rock-hard dick. "Okay sweetie. If you need to use me as a jack-off toy to drain those nuts, just like mommy no," Kushina said nonchalantly while looking back at the computer. Naruto suddenly lifted her off his lap and carried her out of the computer room in a hurry. Kushina giggled playfully as she was hoisted over his broad shoulders. Moments later, "Use me baby. Use my cunt. Make me scream," Kushina screamed as she was on the receiving end of an extremely hard pounding. Naruto fucked his hot Stepford mother with everything he had. Kushina was bent over the ottoman with her leg together in the living room. Still fully dressed in her polka dot blue dress, he fucked her with her skirt hiked up over her hips. He grabbed her shoulders roughly for added support. His pelvis slapped against her ass painfully hard. The ottoman jerked forward a bit with every one of his slams. Her pink headband was falling off her head more and more with each hard thrust. Kushina loved being manhandled like this. Naruto loved his mother's soft facial features, so he flipped her on her back. She immediately spread her luscious legs far, still wearing the 6 inches pair of high heels. Like a jackrabbit, Naruto got on top of her and started ramming her fast. Kushina felt him touch the bottom and plow away at her cervix. After all this teasing, she knew he would give her a huge load. "Oh baby, you are fucking mommy so good." Her deep screams filled the living room. While fucking his gorgeous mother hard missionary style, Naruto leaned in close to her face. Kushina's mouth was slightly open while moaning and breathing heavy. He stared at her full red lips and warm wet tongue in her mouth. She noticed him staring at her as if he was possessed. Possessed by her glowing beauty. It was then that Kushina opened her mouth and stuck out her tongue as far as it would go. Her eyes got round and her facial impressions said, "Please blow your load in my mouth," with one simple look. If anyone has seen one of Ashley Sinclair's tongue-mouth fetish videos, you have an idea of what Kushina's wide-open teasing mouth looked like. She held her mouth open like that for close to a minute while Naruto fucked hard. Naruto moaned, "Oh my god," under his breath over and over again while staring down his mother's open throat. Her nasty tongue began to drool saliva down her chin and it was driving him crazy. "Treat me like a fuck doll. Your Stepford mommy," she said innocently. She opened her mouth extra wide again. "Pound, pound, pound, pound. Baby, am I a perverted mother?" she asked innocently and stuck out her tongue again. "Pound, pound, pound, pound." Naruto was ready to blow a huge load, but he prolonged it to hear his mother talk dirty to him. He never realized he had a mouth fetish until now. Kushina played up to his newly discovered fetish while keeping her legs spread and mouth opened wide. "Pound, pound, pound, pound. I want to be a cum dumpster for you, son. Only you. Your personal whore. Your incestuous sperm-eating Stepford mommy." Kushina then opened her mouth extremely wide and stuck out her tongue once again. Again, a look that reminded him where she wanted him to shoot his pent-up cum load. "Oh god mom, you're so fucking perfect." Naruto pulled out and shuffled up to his mother inviting mouth. He quickly laid his cockhead on her warm wet tongue and immediately exploded. "Fuck ah," Naruto yelled as he drained his balls. Keeping his eyes on the scene directly below him, he watched himself piss stream after stream of jizz into her wide-open mouth. Kushina looked up at him with wickedly lustful eyes. "Stay just like that mom," Naruto said as he continued jacking off really hard, making sure every shot went perfectly in between her full lips. As he finished up his orgasm, he rolled off and laid down next to his mother. Kushina swallowed his heavy deposit, turned her son and stuck out her tongue to show him that there wasn't a drop left. She got up and steadied herself carefully on her high heels. Her legs were a bit weak from the latest session with her beautiful boy. That is when she noticed his son still hard staring up at her. A few minutes later, Kushina was sitting on the dining room table, legs spreads, and her arms propping herself up from behind her. Her wavy red hair draped in front of her breathtaking facial features. Naruto fucked her with slow steady strokes this time. Her tits bounced up and down to the rhythm of his thrusts. Kushina saw her phone light up next to her. While Naruto pumped away at her tight, juicy pussy, Kushina reached down to reach the text on her phone. The text was from Minato. They are about 15 minutes away. Kushina stumbled heavily due to another approaching orgasm. Naruto didn't say anything as he focused on giving his mother every inch of his hard dick. Instead, he lifted her legs onto his shoulders and began ramming her harder. "Oh, baby, that feels amazing," Kushina said as she dropped the phone. Naruto leaned close to her so that his face was inches off her bouncing breast. Naruto felt his nuts begin to quake and tighten. Kushina lifted Naruto's chin so that she could kiss him. They kissed heavily as Naruto's thrusts got harder, but he didn't quicken his pace. He pulled all the way out to the tip of his big penis, waited a moment, and slammed back home. Each one of his slams caused Kushina to whimper with pleasure while she continued to kiss him deeply. They hugged each other tightly as their bodies went into automatic. Kushina lovingly kissed and licked his face almost like a cat in heat. Naruto slid himself as deep as he can go into his mother's twat and released another gooey load. Not breaking their love-filled kissing, Kushina's began tearing from the sheer pleasure of feeling her son's large manly cock twitch and bust deep inside of her. Trying to shoot as deep as he could, he stayed pressed against Kushina's wet pussy. One last orgasm burst within Kushina. Feeling his mother's body tense up, Naruto stayed balls deep inside her. The next day, the whole family celebrated Naruto's birthday. Kushina prepared a big feast including Naruto's favorite, baked lamb chops. Kushina dressed in a short denim skirt and a tight long-sleeve top. Her tits ballooned out and it was very hard for Naruto to keep his eyes off of her. Every now and again, the sexy mother would give Naruto erotic stares and winks. Naruto knew he had to contain himself and couldn't do anything obvious. Everyone was located in the patio as Kushina began telling the story of when she first brought home Naruto when he was a baby. And he was the cutest baby. He had every nurse in the ward asking if they could keep him. I told them since he just put me through 18 hours of labor, I'll consider it. Mom, don't mom me. In the first couple of weeks, you didn't let your father or I sleep one bit. Everyone laughed and shared their favorite stories of Naruto growing up. A few minutes later, "Hun, can you help me in the kitchen for a second?" Kushina asked Naruto. "Sure," Naruto said as he walked around his Aunt Mito. Kushina and Naruto made their way into the kitchen. She glanced out the window at everyone laughing outside on the patio. "Here is the deal. I volunteered to take everyone down to the hotel later tonight. You say you want to come along for the ride. You understand, all right? But, no buts. Mommy has your birthday gift, but it isn't something I can give you in front of the family. If you know what I mean." "What is it?" Naruto asked, assuming she would tell him since they were alone. "Just plan on not getting much sleep tonight. That's all I am saying," Kushina said confidently as she walked past her son and out the back door. The party lasted well into the evening. Kushina arranged for the extended family to stay at the Hilton downtown. "Kushina dear, it's getting late, do you think you could drop us off at the hotel soon?" Minato's mom asked while finishing up the last of her wine. "Sure mom, let's go everyone." Naruto say goodbye to everyone. Kushina yelled for her son to come in from the living room. Usually it would take a miracle to pry Naruto away from playing Xbox, but after hearing his mother's yell, Naruto jumped up eagerly and met everyone outside. "Mom, can I come along for the ride? I want to pick up a few things while we are out." Naruto said eagerly. "Sure. In fact, you could even drive. I just have to go get my purse." "Minato, we'll be back soon. I wouldn't wait up if you are tired," Kushina said as she leaned in and gave Minato a kiss on his forehead. A short time later, Kushina and the family arrived at the hotel. Everyone got their stuff out of the truck and they all said their goodbyes. "Good night. Now remember, Minato will be here in the morning to take you all to the airport," Kushina said to the bunch. "Happy birthday Naruto," everyone said as they made their way into the hotel. Kushina got into the passenger seat while waving goodbye. "Did you have a fun day today, baby?" "Are you kidding mom? Today was the best." "That's great honey. Now drive around to the back of the hotel." "Why, what's the matter?" Naruto asked confused. "Just do it. It's only 9 p.m. You still have another 3 hours left for your birthday," Kushina said as she got out a hotel key out of her purse. "I told your dad not to wait up. In fact, I bet you that he is sleeping already. Knowing that his day was about to get even better, Naruto quickly drove behind the hotel and found a parking spot. Kushina grabbed her large Under Armour duffel bag that she had in the truck. You planned all of this, didn't you, Mom? Of course. What kind of mother would I be if I didn't help my son comb his brains out on his own birthday? Kushina said matter-of-factly. Naruto's spine tingled and his cock began to fill with blood. Kushina even planned so that the family all had rooms on the second floor and she purchased a suite on the top level of the hotel. It was considered the honeymoon suite and had its own separate elevator access with a special key. While in the elevator, the mother and son stood close to each other. Kushina tilted her head and rested it on Naruto's broad shoulder. What's in the bag, Mom? You'll see soon, my big boy. I just hope you like it. Once they reached the top level, Kushina took Naruto's hand and led him to their suite. Once inside, Naruto immediately went out to the balcony to admire the view over the town. Wow, Mom, you can see the whole town from here. Holy shit, there is a hot tub too. Naruto said with excitement. Only the best for my man. Here, I packed you a pair of dry-fit Nike shorts. Get comfortable. Mommy is going to get changed. Kushina said as she handed him the shorts, and then gave him a soft kiss on the cheek. Naruto watched his mother turn around and walk towards the bathroom. He quickly took off his jeans and boxers. He decided to just wear the shorts without any underwear. His cock getting hard quickly as he continued staring at his mother walking away. In the bathroom, Kushina analyzed herself in the mirror. I still got it, she said to herself, and she did a cute little spin. It had been 18 years since her last paid modeling gig. She made the decision to give it all up so that she could have a family and to become a fitness instructor. She slowly rolled up a pair of white, slightly opaque thigh-highs over her long luscious legs. The stockings were trimmed at the top with a little red bow. Kushina reached into her bag and pulled up out a fresh new pair of white cotton panty briefs. The white matched her thigh-highs perfectly. The back side of the panties gripped and hugged her ass wonderfully. She continued emptying her bag and sorting out the materials. Naruto was sitting on the bed for what seemed like an eternity to him. His cock was extremely stiff in his dry-fit shorts. He played around his cock in shorts as he paced around with anticipation. A few more minutes passed as Kushina made sure she was perfectly ready to face her son. For a couple of moments, Kushina looked at herself in the mirror and applied some additional black eyeliner and another coat of red lipstick. She arranged her hair more to match her outfit. To add more eye candy, she lowered her top a bit further and hoisted her tits higher. Her cleavage ballooned and put a tremendous amount of stress on the buttons of her shirt. She was beside herself with desire, lust, and love as she took a deep breath. Are you ready, baby? Kushina called out from the bathroom. Naruto's shorts were tenting obscenely as he hopped into the king-size bed. He jumped on the bed and propped himself up against the headboard. Kushina opened the bathroom door and walked out. The 39-year-old mother stepped forward and her son's heart nearly seized up. Kushina was dressed up like a slutty schoolgirl. White thigh-highs, white panties, short red plaid skirt, and a white sleeveless t-shirt tied up showing her perfectly sculpted abs. Not to mention, she even had on red heels to match her skirt and the bows in her hair. Her hair was braided into pigtails as her skirt barely covered her mound. The stockings rode extremely high her legs and stretched perfectly over her muscular juicy thighs. What do you think? Do you like your schoolgirl mommy? Kushina said innocently. I. Naruto couldn't form a sentence. That's what I thought. I knew once you saw your old mother in this, that you would be rock hard. Kushina said with confidence. She noticed his dick bobbing up and down in his shorts. I took 20 minutes to get ready for you and I see it only takes you seconds to get ready for me. Naruto fished his straining cock out of his shorts, causing him to sigh with relief. Kushina walked over slowly to the end of the bed. Gee mister, what's that? Is that for me? Kushina said in her best innocent schoolgirl voice. Naruto jumped up towards her. His cock bobbing as he stood up next to his schoolgirl mommy. Don't hurt me. Please be gentle. Mom, I love you in this. You look so fucking hot. Oh, you said a bad word. Daddy said to stay away from bad boys who say bad words. Are you a bad boy? Naruto reached out and bent Kushina over the end of the bed. Kushina quipped her hands in front of her so that she could keep her balance. Her ass arched out and her skirt rode up, exposing her white panties. The underwear covered her whole ass, but the material was stretching over her boner-inducing white ass. Naruto's hands immediately began groping and squeezing. "You are so incredibly sexy. I am going to fuck you so hard in this outfit." Kushina turned around, jumped onto the bed, and landed on her back. She spread her legs and planted her feet shoulder-width apart. "You're going to fuck me. What is that? Is that a fun game?" Kushina said, staying in character. Naruto got extremely turned on and dove between her delicious legs. He buried his nose into her white cotton panties. He could smell her musky scent through the underwear and could feel that she was already soaking wet. "Mom, I didn't know you were into role-playing," Naruto said as he pawed at her tiny white briefs. "I didn't know either. But it's fun, right? You can dress your mommy up in anything you want, baby. As long as you give me that big dick of yours." Kushina grabbed her son and flipped him onto his back. She grabbed his protruding cock at the base so it stood straight up. "Happy birthday, my son," Kushina said warmly. Naruto, filled with lust, grabbed his mother by her pigtails and pushed her head down onto his lap. Kushina began sucking hard on Naruto's large throbbing boner. She bobbed her head at a lightning pace, jamming his hard cock down her throat. Naruto watched in awe. Kushina used her hands to steady herself on his hips as she used only her mouth to deep-throat him. "Fuck mom. Your mouth is so warm and wet. I can't believe how good you are at sucking my cock. This is already the best birthday ever." Kushina quipped her head up off his cock to catch her breath. An unbroken string of saliva formed from the tip of his dick and the edge of her mouth. Staring down at his cock, she watched it bob and pulsate. She dove back down on it quickly, giving another good minute of hard sucking. Then she repositioned her body so that she was between his legs looking up at him. Kushina attacked her son's heavy nuts with her tongue while jerking his cock up and down. Naruto reached again for Kushina pigtails and used them as he guided her head around his soaked groin. He felt her pop his balls in her mouth, suck hard, and then pop them back out. She repeated this over and over, occasionally lapping her wet tongue from his bottom of ball sack to the top of his bloated cockhead. With her lips pressed against her son's groin and his cock lodged deep in her throat, the sexy mother reached down and pulled off her panties. She backed up so that only her mouth was around the head of his cock. Then Kushina wrapped the soft cotton panties around Naruto's shaft and jerked him hard. Naruto looked down at his mother dressed in a schoolgirl outfit, completely worshipping his cock. He knew he wouldn't last that long if he let her continue her attack on his member. However, he couldn't stop her. It felt too good to make her slow down. "Mom, you have to slow down or I am going. OGGGGAAAAWWWDDDDD." Kushina doubled down her assault. Without stopping her hard sucking, she slipped her panties off and handed it to her son while not letting up, bobbing her head from the tip back down to the base. The entire bed rocked as Naruto began moving his hips to meet Kushina's sucking. Wet sucking noises and Naruto's heavy breathing filled the room. Then Naruto brought his mother panties to his nose and breathed them in. "Fuik mu mmmmmm," Naruto said into the white boy's short panties. Naruto closed his eyes and every muscle in his body tensed up. Kushina put her hands on Naruto's large ball sack. She gave him a few more hard sucks until she felt his balls begin to constrict. At that moment, she dislodged and quickly lifted her head off his cock completely. "Ah, Mom," Naruto said as he needed one more suck out of her to reach the point of no return. Kushina had her son right on the edge of coming hard, but lifted her mouth off just at the right time. Naruto opened his eyes to see his cock drooling pre-cum and his busty red-headed mother smiling right back at him. She was breathing hard as drool was running down her chin and down to the top of her cleavage. She was insatiable. "Jesus Mom, I was so close. Why did you stop?" Naruto said, squirming in place. Kushina crawled up on top her son, lined up her son's enormously engorged cock with her wet pussy, and slowly slid him in all the way down to the base. She sat there for a moment to feel his girth filling her up. It was a feeling like no other. Her 18-year-old son was right back where he belongs. "There you go, sweetie. Just relax. Mommy's here. I don't want to blow your load right away." Still completely dressed in her schoolgirl outfit, Kushina began pumping and gliding her mature hips on top of her big boy. "I want you to build up a nice big juicy cum load for me." "Aw shit," Naruto yelled and grabbed her hips to prevent her from moving. Almost coming again from her nasty dirty talk, He let the feeling subside before continuing as he kept her body from moving. "Don't move, Mom. Fuck," Naruto said as he gritted his teeth, fighting off the urge to blow his load. "Does mommy have you all hot and bothered, sweetie?" Kushina giggled as she began bouncing slowly again. Her big round tits were spilling out of her tight top. The knot that tied her shirt under her breasts was holding on for dear life. Kushina grabbed onto her son's shoulders for leverage to fuck him harder. The headboard of the bed slammed against the wall for a few minutes. Kushina looked down at her son and began tearing up. She loved that they were so comfortable with their new sexual relationship. "Mom, I love you," Naruto said, staring up at his glowing schoolgirl mommy. Kushina leaned in and passionately French kissed her son while rocking her hips back and forth. This lasted for a few minutes until Kushina's whole body began to quake. She grinded herself faster and faster. "Baby, I am coming really fucking hard," Kushina whispered with mouth pressed right against Naruto's lips. For a good minute, Kushina's orgasm caused her pussy to gush all over Naruto's cock. Then she began to slow down so that she could feel every inch of her baby boy's hard dick. "Wow, honey. That was fucking incredible. But, now that I have you really hard, my sexy stud, I have another present for you." Kushina lifted her body off her son and Naruto's wet cock slapped hard against his stomach. He stared at her skirt that barely reached the bottom of her round, plump-ass cheeks. She walked to the bathroom and came back with a bottle of baby oil. She turned around so that her bubble butt was facing him and she lifted the plaid skirt to the top of her hips. She poured a great amount of baby oil all over her cheeks and in her deep-ass crack. Naruto grabbed his cock and slowly stroked at the site in front of him. "Mom." Kushina hopped back onto the bed but laid down on her stomach and put a pillow underneath her hips. She slowly lifted just her hips and ass in the air while keeping her tits and upper body down on the bed. Her fleshy round ass glistened in the bedroom light. "Son, I want you take your steel cock and ram me up my big ass," she said as wiggled her heart-shaped bottom at him. "Are you serious, Mom?" Naruto said as he jumped up and began feel up her lower back and oily ass meat. He pulled apart her ass cheeks and began fingering his mother's tight asshole. "Use a lot of lube, Pookie. It's been a really long time since I've been fucked this way. I never thought you would go for it. Oh my god, you look so good," Naruto said as he dove into her ass and began to lick away at her tiny asshole. "I just figured this would be another way for you to get all your nasty urges out of your system. A guy like you needs to be with a woman that allows him access to all of her dirty holes," Kushina said with a smirk. "Naruto, look at the time, it's 10:47 p.m. Kushina said surprisingly. Naruto lifted his head out of his mother's oil-slicked backside. "Exactly 19 years ago to the minute, you were born, baby. Happy birthday, baby," she said as she turned her head towards her only child. "Here is my way of saying thank you, mommy," Naruto said jokingly. Naruto moved up and mounted his mom with her ass arched high in the air. He used his right hand to angle his cock downwards and into his mother's sloppy cunt. He immediately laid down on her back as the weight of his muscular body caused her body to lay flat. "OMMMMYYYYYGG GUA DDDDD. Fucking shit." Kushina quailed as Naruto sank as deep as he could go. "I love you so much, Mom. Thank you so much for the best birthday ever." Naruto began fucking his mother as hard as he could. He slammed his groin into her backside and dug his cock in. "Come again for me, Mom. You deserve it. Women like you need to be treated like the beautiful goddesses that you are." Naruto fucked away like a jackrabbit. Kushina's mouth hung open as her body was being used like a ragdoll. "I need you to come for me, Mom. Oh god, baby. Fuck me hard. Feel my cock pound deeper and harder than Dad has ever fucked you. Harder. Fucking pound me," Kushina yelled as another orgasm approached quickly. "You like it hard, mommy. Come for me. Your body belongs to me tonight," Naruto said confidently. "Not just tonight, honey. Forever and always." Kushina screamed as she felt herself explode. She buried her face into the pillow and screamed again. Then Kushina began to squirt all over the bed and Naruto's cock. Naruto slid his cock out of her squirting pussy and slapped her ass hard. He then pressed his bloated cockhead against his mother's asshole. With the combination of pussy juice, oil, and animal lust, Naruto was able to ease in right down to the root of her butt. Kushina let out a deep grunt, turned her head, and looked at her son. "Christ, Naruto. Oh. Kushina yelled as she felt him beginning to pump his cock in and out of her warm ass. Fuck. Naruto yelled and had to stop moving because he felt himself beginning to cum. His mother's asshole squeezed his hard rod like a vice grip. The pleasure was so intense that any movement at all would have made him shoot his balls. He slammed his fist down on the bed and breathed hard. He rested his forehead on the back of his mother's head. The smell of her hair instantly transporting him to when he was a young kid. Her scent and voice gave him a nostalgic reaction. Slowly Naruto started to drill Kushina's asshole again. He reached over to the bottle of baby oil and squirted about a quarter of the bottle all over her ass, upper legs, and lower back. The oil was soaking into her thigh highs and school skirt. Fuck mommy's ass hard. Do it baby. Kushina whimpered loudly. Naruto fucked his mother's ass harder and harder as the bed continued to shake faster and faster. Pound, 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 pound. Kushina's fleshy ass rippled as Naruto's hips smashed into her. He glided in and out really fast, thanks to the generous helping of baby oil and pussy juice. The hotel room was quickly converting into a scene that you only find in the dirtiest porno movies. Jesus Christ baby. Don't stop. Kushina yelled as she came hard. Her body going into a violent convulsion. Mom, I've been so horny all day. I don't think I am going to last much longer. Your ass is so tight. Honey, let me up. I want to make you explode with my mouth and tits. You mean with your whore's mouth and slutty tits? Naruto said confidently as he put a thumb along her red lips. Kushina began to suck on her son's thumb. Your fuck doll is going to make those large balls of yours squirt hard. Do you think you can give your mommy every drop? Kushina asked innocently. Kushina untied the knot in her white schoolgirl top and her perfect round E-cup tits hung beautifully. Her entire body was covered in oil except for her tits, so she used her hands to spread the slick goo all over her thick chest. Naruto sat on the edge of the bed with his cock pointing towards the ceiling, as Kushina got on her knees. She scooted forward, grabbed a hold of her tits in her wet hands, and engulfed Naruto's hard cock between them. Let your mother milk you properly. My tits are your playground right now sweetie. Kushina said while bouncing her tits at an ungodly speed. God mom. So fucking good. Naruto said breathing rapidly. You like when I jack your cock off with my big mommy tits. Dressed as your naughty schoolgirl, slamming her big breasts down on your hard boner. Maybe I should dress up for you more often. Maybe a naughty sperm clinic nurse. You can give your slutty nurse your thick creamy samples. How about your whore cheerleader? Fucking me up my naughty uniform while I hold onto a pair of pom-poms. Kushina said in the most seductive voice imaginable. Naruto felt like he was going to pass out from pleasure. Kushina tightened her grip around Naruto's hard cock, focusing on the tip of the sensitive penis. All of a sudden, Naruto reached up and grabbed his mother by the back of her head and pushed her face down on his cock forcefully. She gladly opened her mouth and allowed Naruto to fuck her face as needed. Gak, 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 gak. Kushina's head flew up and down at lightning speed. Naruto was clearly using her mouth to jack off. Her hands quickly went to the top of Naruto's thick thighs to secure herself from falling forward. He grabbed her long pigtails and let out a deep primal groan. I'm CUMMMMMINNNGGGGGMOOOOMMM. Naruto announcing almost crying. Kushina shot her face up off Naruto's cock and looked at him with the dirtiest look she could muster up. Beat off on my face baby. Kushina yelled as she sat back on her heel. Naruto's hand quickly grabbed his cock and began jacking off hard and fast. His fist flew up and down and he rubbed in his mother's saliva and baby oil. Kushina tilted her head back and stayed perfectly still. Her son stood up tall and aimed his cock at her, and stared down at her beautiful face. The combination of her outfit, dirty talk, and the devilish look in her eyes sealed the deal and he exploded hard. The force of Naruto's first shot of cum was so hard that it hit Kushina's forehead and almost bounced back and hit him on the leg. Naruto unloaded all the contents of his balls on his mother's perfect face. 4, 5, 6, and then 7 large heavy ropes of jizz shot out and landed all over her face. Quickly, there was not a dry spot on Kushina's smiling face. She stayed perfectly still, never flinching or closing her eyes. She lived to watch her son's face as he blasted his nuts. Jesus mom. I don't think I've cum so hard in my life, Naruto said as he finished jerking out a few last drop onto his mother's face. Wow honey. You really had a lot of cum backed up in there. Naruto exhaled loudly and fell back onto the bed. Kushina got up and went to the bathroom. She stared at herself in the mirror and saw a loving mother who clearly would do anything for her son. The sight of a thick white ropes of cum lined on her face was so arousing. The watery parts of his load dripped down to her big matronly tits, neck and shoulders. She began swooping the cum off her tits and putting the globs of sperm in her mouth. Not realizing she didn't close the door behind her, she continued to scoop the larger patches. Naruto stood in the door of the bathroom, staring at his mother eating the cum that he just shot all over her. He began jerking at his semi-hard cock as he continued to watch. Her legs looked beautiful, soaked in baby oil in her 6 inches heels. Kushina noticed Naruto staring at her in the bathroom mirror. For a second, she was embarrassed to be caught scooping her son's cum into her mouth, but she quickly started getting even more aroused. She smiled devilishly at her son through the slimy cum that was still pasted on her face. Naruto raced up behind his naughty mother and roughly bent her over the sink. He flipped up the oil-soaked schoolgirl skirt and slid his large growing cock right into her round ass. Kushina yelped loudly and grabbed the edge of the sink for support. Kushina almost exploded right there. Naruto forced his cock in and out slowly as he watched her face in the bathroom mirror. "Mom, keep doing what you were doing. Keep eating my cum," Naruto said as he pumped his mother's tight asshole. The sight before him made him rock hard in seconds. Kushina shivered a bit as she felt her son slowly sink his balls deep in her glorious butt. She took her large right breast and brought it up to her mouth. She then began scraping the droplets of cum off her tits with her long sexy tongue. Before swallowing, she would stick out her tongue far so that he could see how dirty she could be. Suddenly Naruto began fucking his perfect mother hard and fast. Kushina looked at herself in the mirror as she was getting railed. Her hair and tits bounced in unison while the rest of the sticky cum that was on her face began to fly all over the place. "Why do you say we take this to the hot tub, my sexy birthday boy?" Kushina said after she swallowed another mouthful. Minutes later, Kushina was riding her son hard as jets of the hot tub were bubbling away. Over the next hour, the hot mother and strong son fucked all over the hotel suite. On the bed and completely drained, Kushina leaned in and kissed Naruto softly on his cheek. "Are you excited to go to Disneyland next week?" Kushina asked as she traced her hand over his six-pack abs with her finger. "You bet. Are we going to be able to, have time together alone?" Naruto asked. "Oh, I think we will find ways to get rid of your father when needed." Kushina replied as her hand found its way down to Naruto's nutsack. She seductively dragged her fingernails across the skin. "Good," Naruto said, smiling from ear to ear. "We should think about getting home. You came hard 2 times tonight, baby. Is my little Oedipus satisfied? Maybe one more before we go, my Jocasta-like goddess?" Naruto asked while giving his cock a few tugs. Clearly, he didn't want the night to end. "Jesus, baby. I can't believe how horny you are. My pussy and ass are kind of sore thanks to you," she said as she engulfed his cock into her wet mouth. Kushina dragged her tongue all over the head of his cock and then spent extra time licking away at his used balls. "Tell me when you're going to bust again, baby," Kushina said right before she sucked Naruto's testicles back into her mouth. When Naruto got close to coming, Kushina quickly sat up on her knees between his legs. She leaned her head down so she hovered over his steel cock. Kushina shifted her beautiful red hair so it all draped down the right side of her face. This causes her long hair to engulf her son's dick. Naruto's eyes shot up when his mother grabbed his cock with her hair around it. "Come in my hair, sweetie. Blow that sticky stuff in my hair," Kushina said as her jerking hand beat his hair-covered cock. Kushina had a perverted yet wild look in her eyes. Naruto lasted about 10 firm pumps and blasted. He shivered and shook hard as his third load of the night released. He was extra sensitive and winced hard when she dragged his spewing head through her flowing hair. The hair around Kushina's hand gunked up quickly. "I told you, baby. Mommy is your cum dump." Naruto looked up at the ceiling and let out one last satisfying groan. That's it for part 2 of What If Naruto Crossed a Forbidden Bond with Kushina. If you're enjoying this emotional and intense alternate timeline, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Naruto What If fanfics. Comment below, should Naruto protect this secret, or change his path before it's too late? See you in part 3.